Hello everyone, and welcome to another video in which I'm going to be sharing with you another one of my own training sessions. Now, my intention in sharing my training with you is I hope that in sharing some of the thoughts that I have, some of the ways that I'm moving, my exercise selection, the cues that I'm thinking about when I'm performing the exercises, some of the techniques that I'm implementing, in sharing that with you, my hope is that perhaps you can take some of what I'm doing, try it for yourself, give it a shot, implement it, and see if it's something that actually helps you on your own muscle growth or body transformation journey. I know that for myself, one of the ways that I like to learn, especially when it comes to training, is I do like to test out different things that I learn from other people, whether that be from friends or from a YouTube channel or from my direct fitness education or someone like a direct mentor like Jeff. I like to try different things, implement them into my own training for a little bit, give them a shot, see if they work really well. If they initially feel like they're doing something positive, they're doing something good, they're hitting the right way, then I'll take it and roll with it, try to progress with it. And oftentimes that can be really lucrative. And then other times I'll try things and hey, they don't seem to work at all, even though they can work really well for other people. Maybe they don't work well for me, but that's part of the learning process. I think that when it comes to fitness and strength training and performing different exercises, and exercise selection itself, there can be a lot of different variation and variability as to what works well for different individuals. So for example, what works really well for me might not work very well for someone else. Or maybe something that works well for me is something that works really well for someone else, and maybe that is something that they could adopt and they could try for themselves, and vice versa. I could learn something from someone else and take that and run with it, or maybe I try it and it doesn't work at all. That's just the way it goes. At least that's my experience with fitness. So again, my hope is that in sharing with you my own process, my own exercise selection, how I'm thinking about performing each exercise, what my goals are, what the cues I'm thinking about are, my hope is that in sharing that with you, maybe you'll find something in there that maybe you can try, give it a shot, and maybe you can run with it and potentially it be something that helps you on your own journey. So that said, I'm going to share I believe it's my B session. It's what I did this morning actually, or late morning into the early afternoon. I'm going to share that with you. Again, my goal is overall, I'm trying to build as much muscle as I possibly can, more or less. That's one of my big broad goals, is how much muscle can I build over basically my lifetime. I really find it fun, more or less. It's a hobby. It's something that I think is really interesting. I really enjoy it. I get a lot of fulfillment from it. So that's my main goal. And then kind of at the back of my head, not even the back of my head, I'd say like right in the middle or maybe even on the forefront, I'm still thinking too about the next time I step into a competitive season. So in 2023, I only just finished my last competition season. I competed 4 times over that season, and now I'm thinking about building as much muscle as I can so that there is a much better version of Sam the next time I compete, and that will probably be in either 2026 or 2027. It's 2024 right now, so it's given me a lot of time to really maximize the amount of muscle growth that I can take advantage of over these few years here between seasons. So I'm trying to build as much muscle as I can. I am thinking about my big broad goal, which is just to build as much muscle over my lifetime as I can, but also my more milestone type of a goal, which is to bring a better version of myself the next time that I compete. Again, too, I've also got a little bit of an emphasis on my delts. I'm trying to build, specialize a little bit for my delts, a little bit more for my inner upper mid back muscles like my rhomboids, trap threes, those kind of muscles, and then maybe a little bit of an extra focus on my hamstrings and glutes as well. Aside from that, just trying to build muscle all over the place. So anyways, without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive into the training session, and hopefully you find it at least a little bit helpful. I'll see you there. I'm starting this session off with a back exercise. So these are some weighted neutral grip chin-ups. Again, one of my areas of focus is my back, more or less. I am lifting, I think, 72.5 pounds here, and the goal really is to keep these in the pocket as I progress in load. So you can even notice here, and I'm noticing even as I'm looking back, that I'm kipping a little tiny bit at the bottom there, just that little bit of a tiny swing there. It's subtle, but it's there, and I'm trying to minimize that, keep these really strict as I progress. It's becoming harder and harder the heavier I lift, but I'm trying to stay honest with myself and try to keep myself from doing it in excess anyways. And I'm going to keep doing my best more or less as I increase the load. Doing sets of 8, it's going pretty well so far. My next exercise here is this Viking overhead press, so this shoulder press. I love it. Now for me, overhead pressing over the course of my lifting journey ever since I started has been something that I have had trouble with in terms of actually feeling my shoulders. I've kind of just for years just gone through the motions of like doing barbell overhead presses or dumbbell seated shoulder presses or standing shoulder presses, and just the way that I was doing them, I wasn't feeling them in my delts, and it was like that for years and years of training. This I really like. I've been changing the way that I've done these over the past while to ensure that I'm feeling my shoulders the way that I want. And I really like this Viking press because what it does is it lets me get my arms kind of behind my body almost, or at least behind my head. So it's almost like a behind the head overhead press, where there's a little bit more, at least it feels like there's a little bit more of an emphasis on my side delt because of my shoulder position. And I'm also trying to move with more control, even on the way up, so on the concentric and the eccentric, and I feel a lot of tension on my shoulders, more so than I have in the past. I've also experimented with doing dumbbell overhead presses, because you can kind of do the same thing. You get your elbows like a little bit further behind you, and that feels really great too. I think in the past I just had my elbows a little bit too far forward for what felt right for me, and I just didn't think much of it. But since making those changes, it's been really lighting up my delts. Now, these are basically the meat and potatoes of my delt training. I do them for pretty much every one of my sessions. So like 5 or 6 days a week I'm doing these. And the reason for that is I just feel so much tension in my delts. Again, I've tried different variations of lateral raises, upright rows, machines, you name it, cables. And these seem to be, for right now, they're just hitting right. They're just so much tension in my delts. You can see, like, I like the kettlebells, and one of the reasons for that is I'm able to rotate my wrists in a way that is completely non-injurious for me. So like my potential to keep progressing with these is fantastic. So that's what I'm going to keep doing, and I think it's going to pay off. So I'm going to keep rolling with that. These, I would say, are the meat and potatoes. This exercise is the meat and potatoes of my inner upper, inner mid back training. Now I made a little bit of a change with these. This session, I decreased the load from what I was lifting up to this point. So what I've been doing over the past few months already now, geez Louise, is I've been slowly progressing, adding a little bit of weight each new session, trying to hit the same number of reps, trying to keep my reps standardized, so try to keep my reps the same even as I've been lifting heavier. But I think even though I have had the best intention of keeping things standardized, something has felt different over the past several sessions of lifting heavier. I think my range of motion started to shorten a little bit, and it just was not feeling right as I was lifting heavier. So I made the call today to do something a little bit different, which was decrease the load pretty substantially, and to kind of reestablish my technique, reestablish my mind-muscle connection, because I do want to feel the muscles that I'm intending to be stimulating. I want to feel them. That's my inner upper back muscles. And the other thing that I'm doing here, and you can see it, is I'm moving slower on the concentric. So when I'm actually pulling up, I'm actually intentionally trying to move slower on that phase. Usually the advice we give, and usually the advice I give, is that we move explosively on the concentric. But now I'm trying to move slower on the concentric to help me generate a little bit more mechanical tension in the area that I'm focusing on. I'm in a way kind of trying to micromanage the movement so that the right muscles, I'm feeling it the right way, and basically ensuring that where I want to be hitting is being hit more or less. So it's feeling fantastic. I'm really happy I made this call. I'm gonna keep rolling with this. So you can see this is my second set. Again, I'm moving slow on the way down, pausing at the bottom where there's that stretch, and then I'm moving slower on the way up. It's a little bit faster, but a little bit slower, a little bit more controlled, and I'm pausing at the top, trying to kind of squeeze everything together. And then the other thing too is I'm ending the set with some partials. So basically when I can no longer like lift as high as I possibly can, or as high as, we'll say lift as high as I can at the start of the set, then I'll still do as many reps as I can just with the partial range of motion that I am capable of moving right at the end of the set there. So you can see like here, maybe we'll see. You'll see it in a second. There, so like right here, my range of motion is starting to shrink a little bit, but I'm still trying to do some reps because my muscles still have a little bit of gas in the tank to move at that shortened range of motion where my muscles are really elongated to hopefully get a little bit more out of the set. Once I've exhausted that, then I'll do some shrugs where I'm moving a little bit slower on the concentric as well, squeezing at the top, letting the stretch sit at the bottom. And my goodness, it really feels like it is hitting the right way. Again, this whole lean bulking phase, this bulking phase, it's tough because it's tough to know if you are making a lot of real progress for certain when you're also, until, like, you won't really know until you are leaner, more or less. So I won't know for sure. I think maybe I'll know a little bit, like I'll probably see a little bit of a difference, but I won't know for sure until the next time I get really lean. Then I'll be able to see some differences, I suspect. That said, the next exercise is these Smith machine squats. I do my lower body work at the end of this session, which is pretty brutal. So I start with my upper body work because there is an emphasis on that, at least for this training session. And then I end with my lower body work. And again, that's really tough because I'm pretty tired by this point and the lower body work is very demanding. So finishing a session with this is quite the task for me. Now, I made a slight program change as far as this goes. What I was doing up until today was I was doing 2 sets of high volume Smith machine squats, and then I was doing 2 sets of high volume walking lunges. The change I made was I took the walking lunges out and I replaced them with 2 extra sets of Smith machine squats. So I'm doing 4 sets of Smith machine squats, higher rep target. So I'm aiming for 18 reps for my first set, which I barely managed to get somehow. And then just do as many reps as possible for all other sets. Now I took out the walking lunges, and I hope this was a good call, mainly because they were so psychologically and physically demanding. Like, I was finishing the training session with them. They're hard as heck. I think for anyone that has done walking lunges before, we can all agree that they are no walk. They're not just a walk in the park. And I think for me, they were hitting really, really well. But from an overall programming longevity standpoint, I was getting like butterflies in the car before I'd like go out. And sometimes that's good. I actually like that kind of nervous excitement before a training session, but it was turning not into just excitement, just like drudgery. More or less, I was dreading the walking lunges at the end of the session. So I think for my own sanity and for the overall longevity of my program here, I'm going to replace them for now with these Smith machine squats, an extra 2 sets of them. And these are hitting really well. I love Smith machine squats, so I'm going to roll with that. Hopefully that's okay. Hopefully that pays off. It doesn't lead to any detriment with my overall muscle development. But I think from a psychological standpoint, it's done some really good things for me. So I'll take that as a bonus. And then last but not least, I'm just doing some body weight. We'll call these deficit push-ups. I'm using the kettlebells as handles so I can move a little bit deeper. I'm pausing at the bottom of each rep. You can see a huge range of motion. That's why I'm doing them with the kettlebell handles. I can move a little bit more with a little bit more range of motion. My shoulder health is really good, so I have great shoulder mobility, so I can move pain-free right to that deep position where I can feel a big old stretch across my chest. And then I'm just doing lots of volume. So I'm doing, my rep target is 30 reps, which I haven't hit yet with this tempo and with the pauses. I actually underperformed this session. I hit 22 reps and my top was 26. So underperformed a little bit, but that's the way she goes sometimes. I'm going to keep rolling with these. I like them. I like the body weight stuff sometimes. It's not putting a ton of stress on my connective tissue and my joints. And because I'm doing some heavy bench pressing, it's nice to give my joints and connective tissue a little bit of a break for a session. But anyways, guys, that concludes this video pretty much. Thanks again so much for watching. If you liked the video, please like it. If you'd like to watch more, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.